month seen me. Well, okay. Actually, I'm going to read prose tonight, but it's got a lot of poetry in it, and I'll give a little intro into why I'm going to be reading the prose. I also want to thank Carol who called me up to do this, and it's a nice opportunity. For the last 2 years, I've been writing a prose book, and that comes after 2 years of writing poetry. And I wrote poetry hard for 2 years, and it was really hard work. And I would say in those 2 years, I wrote 60 pages of poetry. And there were 10 pages that I think are good. I think really good, maybe 5. And it just never got a voice that felt comfortable. And I don't know if I have it yet in prose, but prose feels more comfortable, but what I learned in the poetry is inescapable to what I'm doing in the prose. And I want to see more of a fusion, or I guess, so I wanted to get a fusion in the poetry and the prose, and if there was any piece of prose that was wildly important to me, it was always Finnegan's Wake. And if you can tell Finnegan's Wake from prose to poetry, you're a better slicer of beans than I am. So when I set out to write this book, poetry was very important to me. Norfolk was very important to me, North Norfolk, where I come from. And where I met this poet, who I came to this pub some 6 months ago or so, and Carol Weston and I and another poet, we gave a celebratory reading of George Barker's work. And I've used George's poems, particular poems, to introduce each chapter of the book I've written. And the book that I've written, I just should quickly give an intro to that too. It's called Ely Isle. I finished what really is the final draft today. And the most important element of this book is an octagon on top of a cathedral, which is the Cathedral of Ely. And the number 8 has played throughout this book in every way you could imagine. And of course today is February the 8th. Didn't work to achieve it, challenged by that.
It's karma.
Karma. Let me read the dialogues of Gog Magog. I've used 4 of the stanzas of this poem to introduce different chapters in the Isle of Ely. Ely is about 15 miles north of Cambridge. To the south of Cambridge are 2 hills, and these hills are fondly known by the locals as the hills of Gog Magog. Whether they are natural hills or man-made hills, we're not sure. Who Gog Magog are, we're not sure. George chose to write conversations between Gog and Magog, and I'll give you one of these. Dialogues of Gog and Magog 2. Upon a hill I heard them talking, big Gog and little Magog. I thought by now I should know better, said little Magog to Gog. All I know is that the sun rises then sets below the tree. By now I ought to know why this odd thing happens to be. Said Gog to little Magog, and why me and why you, and what and where and when and how, and who, my God, is who? Said little Magog to Gog as they looked down at the sea. If that's our mother and our father, what kind of Gogs are we? And Gog said to little Magog, I hear a dove in a tree burbling like a sermonizer, but does it hear me? Big Gog and little Magog stared into each other's eyes, and they saw the sun and the moon and the stars like the diamonds of paradise. Oh Gog, said little Magog, things all go whence they came. Let's you and I, my dear friend Gog, get up and do the same. And little Magog and Gog stepped down into the sea, just as if it was God's blue eye, and they were you and me.